Hi, my name is Bunny Cakes and welcome back to my channel. So today I am going to be doing a book haul. I have a bunch of library books that I've collected over the last week or so and that I'm looking forward to reading, and I want to share them with everybody. The first book I have is The Pecan Man by Cassie Dandridge Selleck. This is a very short book. It's 137 pages, including the acknowledgments page. It takes place in the summer of 1976. A recently widowed and childless Aura Lee Beckworth hires a homeless old black man to mow her lawn. The neighborhood children call him the Pecan Man. Their mothers call them inside whenever he appears. When he is arrested for murder, only Aura knows what really happened in the woods where Eddie lived. But the truth is a fickle thing, and a lie is self-perpetuating. Aura and her maid Blanche soon find themselves in a web of lies that send an innocent man to prison for the rest of his life. 25 years later, Aura sets out to tell the truth about the Pecan Man. I heard about this book through Peter Mon. He read it a while back ago, and he made it sound so good and so interesting. And Cassie Dandridge Selleck is a self-published author. According to Peter, this book is so good that if she had been published in a more conventional way, she would be like on Oprah's book list, and she would be so super famous because of this book. I am very much looking forward to reading this, and not just because of Peter, but because the blurb on the back of it seems so good. And I think that it will be a quick and interesting read. The next book I have is Neil Gaiman's Norse Mythology. It's not a super long book. I think it's 297 pages, including its glossary. It says Neil Gaiman has long been inspired by Norse mythology and in creating the fantastical realms of his fiction. Now he turns his attention back to the source, presenting a bravura edition of the Great Northern Tales. In Norse mythology, Gaiman stays true to the myths in envisioning the major Norse pantheon. Odin, the highest of the high, wise, daring, and cunning. Thor, Odin's son, incredibly strong, yet not the wisest of gods. And Loki, son of a of a giant, blood brother to Odin, and a trickster, and unsurpassable manipulator. Gaiman fashions these primeval stories into a novelistic arc that begins the genesis of the legendary Nine Worlds and delves into the exploits of deities, dwarves, and giants. Once, when Thor's hammer is stolen, Thor must disguise himself as a woman, difficult with his beard and huge appetite, to steal it back. More poignant is the tale in which the blood of Kvasir, the most sagacious of the gods, is turned into a mead that infuses drinkers with poetry. The work culminates in Ragnarok, the twilight of the gods, and rebirth of a new time and people. Though Gaiman's deft and witty prose emerge through Gaiman's deft and witty prose emerge these gods with their fiercely competitive natures, their susceptibility to being duped and to duping others, and their tendency to let passion ignite their actions, making these long ago myths breathe pungent life again. I have always been interested in mythology, and especially Norse mythology. And Thor is probably one of the most interesting gods to me, so I love that Thor's hammer is on the cover of this. This book came out this year, and it seems like it will be so interesting. I've never seen somebody take this exact approach to telling the story of the gods, so I cannot wait to delve into this book. The next book I have to read is Stephen King's The Wind Through the Keyhole. It's a Dark Tower novel. If you've been watching my channel, you'll know that I have been trying to delve as deep as I can into the world of the Dark Tower before the movie comes out, because I don't know how deep this this movie is going to go. This book came out in, I want to say 2012. Let me check. Yes, 2012. But it is not a book that adds on to the story in the traditional sense. It actually is basically a book 4.5 for the books. So this comes in between Wizard and Glass and I can't remember the next one. But it comes in between book 4 and 5. And Wolves of the Call, that is the 5th book. And it tells some of the stories and expands on some of the things that weren't fully touched on, or weren't touched on as much as Stephen King had originally intended. So as soon as I get through The Wastelands and Wizard and Glass, I'm going to be reading this one, which will be pretty soon. It actually goes back to being a fairly short book compared to how some of the other books were. This one is, let's see, 307 pages, 309 with the afterword. And it follows Jake, Susanna, and Eddie. And, of course, Roland. I'm not going to read the book blurb for this one because it's really super long. But it looks like it will be super interesting. The next book I have is Illuminate. I think that's how it's pronounced. The Illuminate Files number 01 by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. I really love the cover on this book because it's made like, oh, I had a bookmark in this one, sorry. It's made like cutouts, and underneath the dust jacket there are like files, and some of them are redacted and some of it shows through the clear cover of the book, and or the semi-clear color. I can't take it off because it's been taped on by my library. This one, it's a sci-fi book, and its blurb reads, "This morning, Katie thought breaking up with Ezra was the hardest thing she'd have to do today. This afternoon, her planet was invaded." The year is 2575, and two rival megacorporations, whose names have been redacted, are at war over a planet that's little more than an ice-covered speck at the edge of the universe. Too bad nobody thought to warn the people living on it. With enemy fire raining down on them, exes Katie and Ezra, who are barely even talking to each other, are forced to fight their way onto the evacuating fleet with an enemy warship in hot pursuit. But the warship is the least of their problems. Deadly Redacted has broken out and is mutating, with terrifying results. The fleet's AI, which should be protecting them, may actually be their enemy. And nobody in charge will say what the Redacted is going on. As Katie hacks into a tangled web of data to find the truth, it's clear only one person can help her bring it all to the light. The ex-boyfriend she swore she'd never speak to again. It has a briefing note. It's told through a fascinating dossier of hacked documents, including emails, schematics, military files, IMs, medical reports, interviews, and more. Illuminate is the first book in a heart-stopping, high-octane trilogy that lives interrupted, about lives interrupted, and the price of truth and the courage of everyday heroes. This book looks so interesting, and digging through it, or flipping through it rather, it is done in such a cool way. It looks like files, and there are some pages that they look like art, and they look like chat messages, and some of the pages are black and white, and I don't know if my camera will pick it up, but it looks like a galaxy back there, or that's not a galaxy, it's a circuit board, and it just looks like it will be a fun read, and despite being several hundred pages. Well, I say several hundred pages, I'm not entirely sure. Despite being 600 pages, it looks like it'll be a quick read because of the way it's written. Um, and yes, it just looks like a really fun book, and I like the way they did not only the dust jacket but the cover underneath. Um, Let me see if I can pull this loose to show you what it looks like underneath. It is kind of amazing. And I'm wondering, I haven't read everything that's written on there yet. I'm wondering if they will tie these, the files that are on the cover into the story. I kind of hope they will, because that would be a kind of fun Easter egg, because not a lot of us pay attention to what's written on the cover of the book beyond the title and the author name, and occasionally the book blurb that's on the back. The next book I have in my haul is, my library slip is still in there, is Colson Whitehead, The Underground Railroad. This is a book that I heard about through Peter Mon. It's a historical fiction about the Underground Railroad, and it talks about Cora, who is a slave on a cotton plantation in Georgia, where life is hell for slaves, but especially bad for Cora, an outcast even among her fellow Africans. She is coming into womanhood, where even greater pain awaits. When Caesar, a recent arrival from Virginia, tells her about the Underground Railroad, they decide to take a terrifying risk and escape. Matters do not go as planned. Cora kills a young white boy who tries to capture her, though they manage to find a station and head north. They are being hunted. In Whitehead's ingenious conception, the Underground Railroad is no mere metaphor. Engineers and conductors operate a secret network of tracks and tunnels beneath the southern soil. Cora and Caesar's first stop is South Carolina, in a city that initially seems like a haven, but the city's placid surface masks an insidious scheme designed for its black denizens. And even worse, Ridgway, the relentless slave catcher, is close on their heels. Forced to flee again, Cora embarks on a harrowing flight, state by state, seeking true freedom. Like the protagonist of Gulliver's Travels, Cora encounters different worlds at each stage of her journey. Hers is an odyssey that through time, an odyssey through time as well as space, as Whitehead brilliantly recreates the unique terrors for black people in the pre-Civil War era. His narrative seemingly weaves a saga of America from the brutal importation of Africans to the unfulfilled promises of present day. The Underground Railroad is at once a kinetic adventure tale of one woman's ferocious will to escape the horrors of bondage and a shattering, powerful meditation on the history we all share. This book sounds so amazing, and I've heard so many good things about it. And it is written as an own voices book. Colson Whitehead is a black man. And it seems like it will be a very powerful book. The last book I have to read is back on my Stephen King obsession as of late. It is Stephen King's Dr. Sleep. This is the sequel to The Shining. It follows Danny Torrance as an adult. He goes by Dan now, and he comes up against a tribe of people called the True Knot, and he has to rescue a girl that they're after. And she has the Shining as well. And I read The Shining a long time ago and watched the movie and the TV movie that came out. And I just finished recently rereading The Shining because I wanted to read this book. This came out in 2016, but I hadn't been able to get my hands on it before now. Not that I really tried that hard. actually think I may have got my hands on the digital edition before and book hauled it, but I didn't get around to reading it. And I found that occasionally having the book in hand and having it be a library book, especially like this one, it's an interlibrary loan, will force me to read things quicker because I don't want to get in trouble with the library for having the book out for too long, especially an interlibrary loan. So, yeah, the physical book made more sense for me right now because I've kind of been bouncing back and forth between a reading slump and not having a reading slump, um, and just not feeling well and being distracted. So that's my book haul. I actually have another book haul that I'm going to be filming soon because I have a bunch of arcs and such that I have collected, and I this video is already probably going to be 20 minutes long, so um, I didn't want to include all of the books in one haul. So yeah, follow me on all my social media, and I have it linked down below, and please keep reading.